everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Kathy at Attic Treasures, etc. And today what I thought I would do is try to work with some of the things that I got in my latest thrift haul and some other things that I've collected along the way as well. So what I thought I would use is I've got this little booklet here with some poems and quotes about love. And I've got a couple of different kinds of lace, which I may use both or one, or who knows. Got some of my handmade paper, this little pad of paper. It's actually more than one pad. It comes apart, but that's beside the point. And then I've got some of these vintage buttons, some scraps of poppy dyed paper, some of the drawer liner that I purchased at the estate or at the thrift store, and then some scrap fabric. And also I thought I would try to use some of the images from this book for the 20th Century Dolls. Specifically, I was thinking about some of the ones on this page. So my plan is to use this box and create a mini journal out of it, because I like the little window in it, and I just think it would make a nice little mini journal. So I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way and get ready to put this thing together. So we'll see how it goes. I have sort of a plan in mind, but you never know what happens when you just sort of start winging it. So I'm going to take the cards and envelopes out of this box and open the box up. Obviously it's going to be the cover, but I don't think I want the spine to be this wide, but maybe not half that wide either. So I'm going to cut off some of these pieces. So what I'm thinking is I want to reduce the width of the spine, but not in half. So it looks like it's 1 3/4, so maybe I'll go 1/2 inch. Make sure I've got it straight. So that narrows it a bit, which is good. Okay, so I'm going to use some double back tape to put on there. I really like this red tape. Sometimes it's hard to find. I don't know if that's the case in your location, but I don't know. Sometimes I have a hard time finding this red double back tape. Okay, so to reattach the window, which is almost completely coming off, I'm going to use some Fabri-Tac. Oh boy, it really doesn't want to stick. Who knows how old this is? So, and I'm just, putting some Fabri-Tac along the edges, or right where the glue line is. I'm going to leave this flap just to give it a little bit more structure, but it's not going to show. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it down so that it's only the same width as this section in here, so it doesn't overlap at all. So we have just over 3/4 inch. So I'm going to cut this so that it's only 3/4 inch wide. Oh, I cut it 1/2 inch wide. And then I'll use some double back tape as well. I cut it on the wrong line. This stuff is nice and strong. I really like this tape. Okay, so next I'm going to want to cover this, but I need to cut out the window section, don't I? So what I'm going to do is position it on my paper where I want it to be, and giving myself enough room. Make sure I'm in frame here. Giving myself enough room around the edges to be able to fold it over. And then I'm going to use some tracing paper to trace out the shape of the opening there. And I have just some of this Dritz tracing paper, which you can find in any fabric store. I'm going to use blue because it'll show up the best. I want my paper to be straight. So, well, it's not cut exactly straight, but I mainly just don't want the paper, you know, the cover to be all kittywampus in there. Okay, so I'll put the tracing paper underneath it. Again, giving myself enough room to fold the paper over. And then I'm going to take my little stylus that I got at the Dollar Tree and just trace along the inside of this opening. And you can see it right there. Okay, so now all I need to do is cut that section out. By the way, this is a technique I use for window envelopes as well. Okay, that's a pretty good fit. And then should just be able to ink up around the edge, kind of hide the mark there. Sometimes it'll wipe off easily. I'm going to use this. This is the Fired Brick Distress Ink. And just make sure that I have it right side up. And I think I'll do a little bit of the Distress Ink around the opening on the box as well. That way, if I happen to get it a little off center, you won't really be able to tell as much. Okay, that should be sufficient. Now I'll just cut off a section here on the bottom. And that gives me plenty for the other side as well. Okay, so let's, I'm going to use, let's see, what should I use? Should I use art glitter glue? I'm thinking art glitter glue. I want to keep the glue a little bit away from the opening because I don't want it to bleed out into the cellophane or whatever that is, the acetate. I will spread it with my finger. But I don't want it to be so thick that it's going to squish out. That's pretty good. And now I'm just going to put the rest of the glue on. I love this drawer liner paper. Can't imagine just taking it and hiding it in a drawer when it's so much prettier being used this way. And when I first saw it at Goodwill, sometimes you see some of these things and they are not full boxes. Well, this one was totally sealed and it was completely full when I opened it. So I'm not going to do the spine yet. I'm going to wait until I get it folded over And of course I'll, you know, trim the corners and stuff like that. But I do want to get the piece on the back as well. I'm going to err on the side of having enough on the edge and worry about covering up the blank spot on the spine later. I'm just going to cut a little bit of an angle around, and obviously I can trim this off. Cut a little triangle out of here so that it folds over nicely. And finish trimming here. It doesn't have to be totally straight, that's fine. Okay, so let's start folding these flaps in. And I'm just spreading the glue out, you know, so that it has an even contact. Cut a little section out of the bottom too. Forgot that part. This just makes it, you know, has less bulk when you're folding it over. Makes a nicer corner. Okay, so far so good. Now I'll just glue these flaps down, and you know, this is going to be covered, this area, with fabric, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I like that a lot, actually. Okay, so let's see, we'll put the pin in here and then look for a suitable picture for inside that window. And I have one sort of picked out of this book, which is for making doll clothes from the 20th century. And let's see, will she fit? I like these ladies right here. So actually, you know what? What I'm gonna do is cut out the whole page. That way I can use the box, the opening, to help me determine what picture I want to put in there. Because of course it has to fit and it has to look nice. I think right there, I really like that. Can even come down a little bit more. Okay, so let me grab a pencil and that way I can cut it off. Okay, so what I want to do is take that picture and attach it to this a little bit heavier cardstock and then I will fit it inside that frame. So I'm going to use my Xyron for that, so I shall be right back. Okay, so I have it attached to the film with the Xyron. I ran it through so that I can, it's not going to warp the paper, and it'll help me just place it on the cardstock more easily. Then it will be easier to trim it to fit the window and the inside of the cover. Okay, that looks good. Use some more art glitter glue. Okay, I really like that so far. Okay, I'm going to let this dry thoroughly before I do anything else, so I'll be right back. Okay, so everything's nice and dry, and I'm going to start to work on the closure a little bit. And I have this really pretty ribbon that is sheer. It's got a little gold edging on it, and I'm just going to cut a length of it and put it inside the cover before I put anything else on the cover. And I'm going to use some Fabri-Tac to glue it down, and also I'm going to cover it with some Fabric Fusion. I just really want it to stay put. So let me find the center as well as I can. That's right about there. This Fabric Fusion is great stuff. It's a double back tape. It's for fabric, but I really like using it for an application like this as well. So I'm just going to cover it with that, and I'll wait to take the backing off of it until I'm ready. And I'm just going to leave this long for now because I'm not sure exactly how long I want to cut it, so I'm just going to wait until I'm ready to do that. Okay, so then the next thing I want to do is cover the inside. And what I thought I would use is some of the end sheet from this book, because I really like that. So I'm going to cut this out. There's another end sheet on the other side of the book, on the back cover as well. Okay, so I'm going to use it to cover the inside here. I'm going to take my pencil, just make a little mark right there and right here, just inside. Okay. All right, now I just need to cut another one that same size for the other part of the cover. I think I'll put this one on the front and the other one on the back. Okay, I'm going to put these through my Xyron and come back and we'll attach those. Okay, obviously you don't need a Xyron to do this. Glue works just as well, but this is convenient for me and I have it, so I'm going to use it. The trick is making sure it gets on there straight, because once it's on there, it's really on there. Okay, I'm really happy with that so far. Super cute. Okay, we're almost done with the cover. Now, to cover the back, the spine and inside and out, I want to use this fabric. But before I do that, I want to make sure that when I put this in there, that there's a little bit of lace on either side showing through. So I'm going to use this lace that I got at one of the thrift stores recently. And what I like about it is that it's double. So I get 2 pieces out of one length. I'm just going to cut it like so. And I love the color of it. It goes really well with this paper. And now I can cut it down the center so that I have 2 pieces that are the same. I'm just going to cut it right down the center there. So does anybody notice that I forgot to pull off the backing on that Fabric Fusion? I just now thought of that. Oh well. Oh well, it's stuck there. Not going anywhere. Okay, so we're gonna just attach this with Fabri-Tac. So, question for you all. Do you look at little boxes like this in the same way you always did? Or do you look at them now and think, hey, that's a raw journal? Because that's what I do. I look at it and I think it's a raw journal. Okay, so you can see this has a little bit more of a scalloped edge. This one has a more finished edge. And that's just because that's where it was cut in the middle, where it was attached. So I'm just going to cut that little piece off so that it has more of a scalloped edge like the other side. And voila! Okay, now for the inside, I'm going to take this fabric, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew it along the edge here and then turn it inside out and iron it so that it's flat, and then I can wrap this both inside and out, and it should be pretty close to the right width. So I'll be back after I do that. Okay, so I have this all flattened out. What I did is I folded it in half, sewed along the edge, and then turned it inside out and ironed it so I don't have any raw edges. Sometimes I like raw edges, sometimes I don't. And on this one, because the journal is so small, I thought I would keep the raw edges to a minimum. So I'm going to attach it to the outside and the inside, and I am going to use this Fabric Fusion. This time I think I'll go ahead and remember to take the backing off instead of leaving it on, because that won't work. So I'm just going to put some Fabri-Tac down here for the bottom part, and then I'm going to bring the rest of the spine cover over to the inside. And then we'll put on some more Fabric Fusion. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my pinking shears and trim the edge, the end of it off. Not the straightest cut, but no matter. Maybe I can even it up just a little bit. I don't think so. Nope. It is what it is. Okay. Now I want to put on the closure. Okay, what I was thinking for the closure is to take a little flat button and glue it to this button, and then that way it'll lift the button up off of the surface so I can wrap the ribbon around it. Okay, so I was going to use art glitter glue to try to bond these together, but instead I'm going to use a glue gun because I think I'm going to get a better bond. It's been a while since I used my glue gun for anything. Okay, so that worked. That worked really well. Now I'm going to attach this right here. Okay, and then this is just fast and easy, and you get a good bond. You've got to be careful not to burn yourself. And then the idea will be to have this wrap around when I get the signatures in. So we're going to set this aside and work on the signatures now. And I have some of my handmade paper that I did a video on a while back, and I'll put a link to that video at the end of this. And I like these thicker pages that I want to use as signature covers. So I'm going to go get my table set up so that I can do some Mod Podging. Okay, so instead of using Mod Podge, I'm going to use some of the Distress Collage Medium because I'm going to use some of this Tim Holtz collage paper, and this is called Document. That's the name of it. And again, I'm using my my handmade paper, and I cut it down to fit. So I'm just going to cover up the outside of it, and I hope it works because this is the first time I worked with this paper. So we'll see how it goes. And I expect it to be kind of bumpy. My brush is a little bit stiff. I expect it to be a little bit bumpy, but that's okay. That's why I'm using it, because I kind of like that look. Just want to make sure I get enough on here to make sure that there are no bubbles, no air bubbles, because that kind of drives me crazy. Take my brayer and brayer it down, hopefully get most of the air bubbles out, if not all of them. It'd be nice to get all of them. I like the tones of the red in this collage paper to go with the paper that I used inside the cover, and to give it that old-timey look to it too. The plan is to have 4 signatures, so I'll be back after I get the rest of the pages covered. Okay, so I have now coated and sealed the signature covers with a coat of the Distress Collage Medium, and then I did a top coat with the Mod Podge Gloss. And I went ahead and sewed a line of stitching in the top and the bottom on all of them. And I cut out some pages from the sewing book, this one, the 20th Century Dolls. And what I did was I cut some pages out, and I'm going to glue them to the inside so that they can be pockets on the inside of the signature cover. I also cut out 3 or 4 rather of the well, they're just like illustrations that are inside the book, but I cut them out since I can't copy them, and back them onto some cardstock, and then they will go on the front of the signature covers, and I just thought that they were really pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a thumb hole with my 1-inch, I think it's a 1-inch round punch. And then go around and ink it with some fired brick distress ink. To save time, I've already done this on the other 3. So we actually put up some bird feeders. We put up 3 bird feeders, and I've always been sort of afraid to do that because my cat is a very good hunter, and I didn't want to put them anywhere where she would be able to get a hold of them. So we found a couple of spots where she wouldn't be able to get to them, and we set them up with some seeds and suet, and hopefully soon they'll discover the bird feeders. And we really like to watch our birds, so we'll see what happens. We did it yesterday, and so far they haven't seemed to have found it yet. Maybe the word's out about the cat. I hope not. She is quite the hunter, though. She's brought birds in the house before when we used to have it where she could come in and out whenever she wanted. We had a little kitty door. But she lost her in and out privileges because she kept bringing in live birds, and they'd be flying all over the house. And I'd have to go get them and rescue them and take them outside. And then she'd be mad at me, but, you know, no matter. So hopefully this will prevent her from doing it and allow us to do our own bird watching too. Some of our friends have bird feeders, and she said they had a male and a female western tanager, which is really special because they mostly like to spend their time up in the trees so that you can hear them, but you can't really see them. So that would be exciting. And they live near us, so there's a possibility that we might be able to see them too. So that would be exciting. So I'm just going to glue these in, and then I can start on the outside of the cover. I wanted to put some of this lace on, and it's a nice narrow lace. It's really pretty, but I thought it would make a nice edge. So I'm going to use Fabri-Tac for that. Okay, I wanted her on this one, and I have taken some black soot and inked around it. I'm also going to put this, this is a Tim Holtz flower from the Botanical Layers, the same one that a lot of the butterflies come from, I believe. And I left the dates on here. This is from 1939, and since the book that they came from is Dolls of the 20th Century, the fashions are all, you know, year specific, and so this fashion was popular in 1939. And honestly, I think the clothes were so much prettier back then. Okay, she is gorgeous. First of all, I want to ink around her as well. Might as well do that with all of them. And the only reason I'm doing this is just to give them more of an outline so that they kind of show up more on the page. Okay, so I have a photo next to me showing me what pieces go where. So when I was reading the copyright section of that book for sewing the children's clothes, all you can really do is trace the patterns with tracing paper, and then you have to write on each one that it came from that book. So, not copying anything out of there. Okay, question for everybody. How many of you grew up with McCall's magazine and cut out the Betsy McCall paper doll from the magazine? Who remembers that? My mom subscribed to it, and that was the first thing I always did, is see if I could get the Betsy McCall paper doll. That's kind of what these remind me of a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to set these aside, and I have my signatures all ready to go. So in the center of each one, well, first of all, I've got my handmade paper, some coffee dyed paper, and then in the center of each one, I used this book, since the pages were already coming out in a very considerate fashion, and I cut up some of the pieces to use like as pockets and tucks and things like that. So this one is going to go in the center. And then in the center of this one, I'm going to make this a little envelope. So I'm going to just ink around it with some vintage photo, which I think I put away. And I'm not going to glue the sides down. I'm going to actually sew it into the signature, and then I'll glue the side down. This one, these are going to be top tucks, like so. And then for the last one, I made some corner pockets like that. Okay, all the signatures are ready to be sewn in, but I'm going to set it aside for a minute so I can go get all of the thread and needle and everything else that I need to sew them in. So I shall be back. Okay, I'm all ready to sew the signatures in now. I used a little template that I made just for this project, and just basically drew some lines on this little piece of heavier paper, marked where I wanted the holes to be, and then used a marker to mark them on the fabric. And then I used the same template to determine where the holes were going to be on the inside. And what I usually do when I'm making holes is I make the center a little bit towards the top so that you can always tell which side is up, so you're not going to put your signatures in upside down. So I used an awl to poke through because I didn't want to use my big shot because I think it would have made the holes too big, and since I'm putting 4 signatures in here, I didn't want the holes to be too big. So it may be a little bit more challenging to put the to tie the signatures in but we'll see how it goes. And I have some just sort of beige embroidery floss. I scored a ton of embroidery floss at an estate sale. So I'm using it to sew in the signatures, making it 3 times the height of the little journal. So let's just get started. It doesn't really matter, excuse me, which one goes in first. So I'm just starting with the one closest to the back cover. It's easier to work back to front. Okay, through the middle. And you've probably seen this process a million times, so I won't bore you with the whole thing. So we'll just get the first one in and then fast forward through the rest of them. Okay, so that actually worked really well. This one's always the trickiest, going back in through the center hole. I don't want to split the embroidery floss. Okay, so I'm gonna do it in 2 stages here. Get it nice and tight, and then tie a couple of knots. And then move on to the next one. So I'm going to do the rest of these off camera and come back when they're all sewn in, and then we'll finish up the cover. Alrighty, I have the signatures all sewn in, and I think that this is really turning out super cute. So let's go ahead and finish decorating the cover. And I have these buttons here that I got that I used here for the closure, and I have some others, and they're kind of variegated in color because they're really old and sort of faded. So I was thinking of taking my glue gun and gluing these onto the spine, but my glue gun is heating up, so we're going to let that heat up for a little bit. To finish out the closure with this ribbon, I was going to take this little key that I got at an estate sale. I got a whole bag of them. This lady that had passed away had tons and tons and tons and tons of crafting items, paper crafting in particular. And one of them was this bag of these little metal keys. They're obviously decorative. So I thought it would be super cute and fun to tie it onto the end of this ribbon and use that as the closure. But I think I'm going to tie it a little further up. So it would have been a better idea to wrap this around and then figure out where to place the key. And that looks a little bit better. Let's move it down a little tiny bit more. Now we can tie it off. Okay, I absolutely love this. Now I have these little die cuts, these little wooden die cuts from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted to embellish the front of the journal right there with one of these die cuts. But instead of just leaving it plain, I want to take some of the foundry wax from Tim Holtz. I've been having fun experimenting with these. They come in 4 colors. So this one is sterling, this one is called Mind, and then Gilded and Statue. So I'm just gonna shake them up and then put some on this wax paper and then just rub it on with my fingers. I like having the different colors available. So I don't know if you've ever used this before, but I've been having fun with it. So the idea is that you just brush it on. You can use your finger or a little brush or whatever. And it goes on and it turns sort of flat. And then you heat it and then it becomes more metallic. So it has a little bit of a metallic look to it already, but it becomes brighter when you heat it up. And it's really for non-porous surfaces, so it works really well with things like plastic and glass and things like that. But because I have found that it also works with this, I just wanted to bring this little thing to life a little bit more so it's not so dull. I've got my little tweezers here, and I'm just gonna, let's see, where's the best place? Okay, I'm just gonna hold it like so, and I'll do this, I'll turn the sound off while this is going on. There, isn't that pretty? So much better than just plain dull. And I'm going to just glue this onto the corner there as a little embellishment, and I'm going to use art glitter glue for this. So just a tip, you can soak these in water, these little embellishments, and the layers split apart, and you get 4. I didn't want to do that with this one because I wanted the dimension, but yeah, so for $1 you get a whole bunch of these in a little box, or a little, you know, container, whatever you call it. And then you can get 4 out of each individual one. Super, super cute. My glue gun is ready. I'm going to turn this on its end here, and just going to put some glue right there in the center. And on the top. I also have some of these little flat back pearls that I thought I would put in the center of each one of these little buttons. So let's get the glue gun back out. Okay, I'm happy with that. I think that worked out really well. And then the final touch would be to add a couple of little corner embellishments. And I have these little buttons here. And I'm going to use art glitter glue for these. No, actually, I'm going to use Fabri-Tac. These are just little plastic buttons. You can see the little holes there. And I got these at Joann, and last time I was there, they were all out. So I'm really hoping they're going to get more in, because I really love these for mini journals like this. Just a nice little corner embellishment for the cover. So what do you think? I think it is absolutely adorable. I'm super, super happy with the way this turned out. Now the next step is, of course, to add the little inserts and everything, and I think I'll do that in a separate video because it's already going to take a long time to edit this. So I just also wanted to glue down the sides of this envelope before I forget. I have these little Velcro dots that I can put on to keep it closed. Let's see, probably the easiest way to do this is to put them together. There we go. There. It's a nice little closure. Okay, so I have some things that I want to make, some little tags and stuff that I want to use to put inside. So we'll do that in a separate video, otherwise this is going to take way too long. So I hope you enjoyed this, just working with my thrifted items. This started out as a box for cards and then used some book page embellishments that I got from the sewing book, and some thrifted buttons, this little key, and my handmade paper on the inside that I made from shredder scraps, and so I'll link that video at the end. And just some scraps of copy dyed paper, some lace, and I think this is a really fun little journal. So if you did like it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. It helps YouTube to know to promote my channel so that more people see it, and that's a good way to support me. So anyway, I hope you had fun. I did, and I'll see you in my next video. Happy crafting, and let the serendipity find you. Bye bye.